Since 1977, Rusty Brown has been producing jewelry that has much more meaning than just equestrian-themed jewelry. It's designed by farriers who live and breathe horses, lovingly referred to as the blue-collar jeweler because every piece is proudly made here in the United States of America by the hands of retired Marines. Stop by and visit our booth, or check us out online at rustybrownjewelry.com.
That's right, everybody. Rusty Brown Jewelry is sponsor of Forge and Brains podcast. So now you can go to their website and use code BRAINS, 20% off. And up until Black Friday, they're having a 25% off sale. So after Black Friday, you can use that code BRAINS at checkout to get yourself 20% off. They are made in the USA, designed by farriers that we all know, and then made by retired Marines. With Christmas right around the corner, it's a perfect time to get yourself a gift or your significant other a gift with some special jewelry that's designed by farriers. So go to rustybrownjewelry.com, use code BRAINS, save yourself a little money, and I hope you guys have a good holiday season.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Forging Brains podcast. I'm your host, Riley Kirkpatrick, with my co-host, Gavine Cooper. We're kind of just cramming this one in here a little bit. It's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I just randomly, we were supposed to do this last night, and work gets in the way and everything. And so just randomly, I had a little bit of a gap this morning, and I messaged Gavine to see what he was up to. And he's driving. He's always stuck in traffic a lot with his commute lately. So we had just trucking along. It's figured we'll just make do with what we got. You know, it's kind of what happens as a horseshoer. We wanted to put out a podcast, even though it's pretty close to the competition. We wanted to put out a podcast just talking about the shoeless for Fort Worth. The WCB, it's going to be at Billy Bob's parking lot in Fort Worth, Texas, December 4th through the 7th. And Gavine and I are your judges for that one. So we figured this is probably the first shoe list that we should be talking about because it's ours. And we actually have any credit in the game. And so we better go over it a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be good to just kind of let people know maybe like what we're wanting to see with the shoes and kind of like our thought process on how we went about building the shoes. And, you know, there's still a few days that somebody could practice and, you know, figure something out and line it out with their, their program and how they're getting their shoes built.
Yeah, I don't think, obviously, whatever you're practicing right now, you should probably stick fairly close to your game. But maybe this will line out with some little things that you weren't looking at, you know? Just random little things. Because even though, the basics of shoemaking is still going to prevail in all classes, there might be some key little features that we're looking at that you might not be thinking of or something, you know what I mean? So I know I've talked to judges after the contest a lot, and I'm like, God damn, I wish I would have known that 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
And it's just something little, so it's maybe we can clear something up like that. I don't have anything in my mind right off the head, but it's I'm sure through our talk there'll be something that you can grab onto that might just help out your system a little bit or how your shoes are coming out. Something you're overlooking that might hold you back in the contest.
Probably what a lot of people are wondering is, what's a big thing you're going to be looking for in that fuller?
Yeah, I've had some people ask me about it. It's again, treat this fuller as a specimen. I want you to make the fuller as close to mine as possible. And so, to me, when I look at this fuller right away, if somebody was just going to have me make this or something, overall length would come into my mind right away. Something I would. It's kind of a big deal to your eyes as well, and how fullers run. Is overall length. So I would try to be making my fuller as close to this one, lengthwise, and then just basic dimension wise. So how long is the blade? How wide is it? How big is the head, the striking surface? Because this fuller does have a slight taper, a slight bell to the whole thing. And I don't want to say a bell too much because it doesn't have the kicked off ramped ends at the cutting edge like some do, but it is a taper. It's like a Morse taper almost to a point. The striking end is tighter and more kind of a square, and it goes down to more of a rectangle shape at the cutting end. It's longer down there. I on our YouTube video we have all the measurements for that thing. I don't have the specimen right in front of me, But our YouTube video has all the measurements of the whole entire fuller. And if you get close to those measurements, your fuller is going to look a lot like mine.
Are you worried about if, say, somebody's eye drift is a little bit bigger than yours or smaller than yours? Is that going to be too much of a concern?
No, it's not going to be too much of a concern, but it's going to be something that's like, if it's coming down to yours or somebody else's, if there's two sitting next to each other that look the same outside dimension wise, but one has a huge eye and so in the return has kind of thin walls, or one has a really small eye and so really thick walls but really not enough timber to do the job. Well, the one that has a good eye, is going to do better than those ones. One that's proportionate. It's the same thing of like, it's appropriate, so I'm not going to get down to the micrometer on the dang thing, but I don't want to have too thin of walls on the fuller, so the eye can't be too big. I don't want to have too little of wood in the fuller, so the eye can't be too small. Like it is I'm not really, no. So I don't think it has to be perfect. It doesn't have to match the shape perfect either. I just want an appropriate eye in the thing. The biggest thing I think is going to nail people is it just being straight.
Yeah. I guess a good thing about that class is like people are going to have to use that fuller to build the shoe with it. And so say your eye's too big or too small, you either may break a handle or it may break the fuller. Yeah. So I guess that's a good test right there to figure out your tooling, right?
Yeah, and it's mild steel. So if your eye is way too big in the thing, you run a chance of collapsing the tool on itself.
Yeah,
like the sidewalls could bow and buckle. Like it can happen. So it's like, be careful when you're doing this thing. Don't cram don't let your striker pop a huge eye in the thing for you and then go to town on the flat or on the sides of the thing. Like you're gonna get way over thin. Be cautious about it. It's not too much material. It's not too little. Like the 1 inch round will make this fuller very good. But it's like, just don't let your striker get all crazy on the thing. And I think one of the biggest thing, like, obviously this isn't hammer finished. I rasped up these sides and everything like that. But if the blade isn't straight, it's going to be hard to rasp that in.
Yeah, and it's probably going to hinder on how good it runs in your shoe as well.
Yeah, if it's all screwed up, it's like you're not going to get the shoe fuller nice and everything. So it is one of those like, just make it a nice using fuller right off, because then the rest of the class won't suffer from it either. Because it is one of those. It's not like a shoe. It's like a shoeing class almost. Is like you got to make the thing, but it still has to work. Just like in a normal horseshoeing class, you got to make the horseshoe and then nail it onto a horse. So it has to have everything there completely. Like this is the same thing with a fuller. Is a fuller can't just be an object. It has to also be a tool. It has to get used in the end.
And then so I remember we were just at the AFA convention and some people had asked you about the handle. Are you worried about like somebody, if they have a shitty handle or a nice handle? Like, talk about that a little bit.
I'm not too worried about what the handle looks like or what it's made out of or anything like that. I think it just comes down to, again, of just, it needs to be straight, the handle. Like, it needs to be cut straight and tooled straight, Like, I don't want to see where, like, oh, you fit the eye straight, but then you ground or rasp on the handle and it's way off to one side, either or. It needs to come straight out of the tool. Everything needs to be straight and square. And also proportionate. I don't want to see a big, huge, blocky 2x4 as a handle and be like, well, it's all straight. Like, yeah, but it also just needs to be a nice item. You know what I mean? It's like, when all else fails, copy the specimen.
Yep.
Like, I didn't put too crazy of a handle in the thing. It's pretty plain, but it's straight. It's straight, and it comes out of the thing straight. It fits your hand nice. It's got a good oval to it. Guys have also asked me, like, oh, do you care if it has rubber in it or not rubber in it?
This episode is brought to you by the World Championship Blacksmiths. Next on the docket is the Fort Worth National Championship of 2024 season. Then after that, they have the 2025 Winter Clinic that is at Wellshod in Amarillo, Texas. And that's free to all members, and that's one that you definitely don't want to miss. So check out worldchampionshipblacksmiths.com for more info. You know, if it wasn't for the World Championship Blacksmiths, we wouldn't necessarily have this community to, bring us all together and ultimately to better ourselves through our trade, have a goal to strive for and, something to work towards. So, but also World Championship Blacksmiths has a whole merchandise line and some tools that they sell. So you can go to their website, worldchampionshipblacksmiths.com, use code BRAINS for 10% off anything on their website. That's not including memberships or contest fees, but by using that code, it shows that you support the show and you're proud to invest in something that is investing in you. So we appreciate you guys. Show your support. Thanks.
I don't care if it has rubber or not. I mean, Gavin's been around me, enough guys have been around. I don't run rubber in a lot of my tools. They're all just on there with wood, and they aren't a problem. We aren't losing heads all the time or anything like that. I think the biggest thing is I want to see the eye fit.
Yep.
If two guys made the same sweet fuller, they're the same and they have the same amount of mistakes or degree of mistakes, but both of these fullers are super sweet, and one guy did a shitty ass job of fitting the eye, and one guy fit the shit out of the eye, it's like, dude, that dude that fit the eye is gonna be better. And don't think you're gonna fool me by just putting some rubber on there and be like, he's not gonna be able to tell if the eye fits or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to tell if the one shape matches the other shape, and so it's just try to take this as a journey of time to learn how to fit an eye a little bit, and how to have the eye look right. So it's I don't care if it has rubber on it, just make sure it fits, make sure it's the same shape. Use the rubber as just a shocking device, not as a way to fill in all your gaps and your inconsistencies of fitting it.
I think one of the coolest things about the fuller being in this class was now we can see some people posting on Facebook and Instagram that since they've started to make some fullers for the contest, they've been able to fool around and try to make different style of fullers so then they can use them for themselves or whatever too, and kind of get out of their comfort zone to learn that a little bit.
Yeah, it already came full circle for me a little bit, and it was all worth it. Of when the very first WCB I went to was Sheridan, and it was a fuller class. You had to make a fuller. It was Travis Swinson was a judge. You had to make a fuller, and you had to make a ag heel draft shoe with it. And
yep,
it was one of the main reasons I went. I was like, oh, there's a tool on the list. I can make a tool, and so it's that's why I went. But it was so cool to see at that time that the fuller got on the list, so everybody started making practice fullers. Well, then everybody started selling their practice fullers. They started just making them out of H13 and S7 and selling them. And I've seen that. I just saw it 2 days ago. Logan Solito posted some fullers that he made, and somebody in the comments dude, I'd like to buy one. That's how it happened. That's how Jukes became a fuller maker. That's how Andrew Nielsen became a fuller maker. That's how you became a fuller maker. Is you were made them before a contest and then started selling some of the practice items, and it's all of a sudden you're making tools.
Yeah,
and you're selling tools, and all of a sudden it's it created a whole era of people that were. You can kind of see it right now dying down. Of you looked around the tool trays 3-4 years ago. Pretty much all the tools on the tool tray, they'd be crude, but they were all handmade by that guy that was in that class. Because he could punch an eye.
Yep.
So so the guy could punch an eye and not be afraid of it, and he had a bunch of tool steel still sitting around from the last class, so he was making his own tooling. We're right now we're seeing the time I look around at the tool trays a lot when I go to a contest, and there's a lot of bought tools on the tool trays, and nothing wrong with that. But it is kind of cool when all the tools on the tray are made by the person who's in the class, and he's he owns his own deal, he doesn't need anybody to do it. So it is kind of cool to already see that happening with this from this list, is people getting less scared of just poking an eye in something.
I agree.
It's sweet. So, and then, all right, so they got to make that fuller, and then they got to use that fuller to make your big old bar shoe. What's some key points on this bar shoe you're looking at?
Basically, like the first thing to me that I'm gonna look at is like, is it pretty close to the same size and shape? And then I would like if it's got a strong clip on it, that's gonna do pretty good in my eyes, you know. And then bar width, like
And
having
and
the
and
bar
when you say strong clip, what do you want that clip taller than it is wide or the same? Like,
proportionate. Yeah, so about the same width or same height and width, and then a good bit of mass in the clip as well.
and do you want that tapered, like from the base to the top, from the base to the tip of the clip, or do you like your clips fairly solid?
Pretty solid, not so paper thin at the tip. I think this clip on this shoe isn't super strong, you know. So if one is stronger than that, I'm gonna be happy with that. And then having the bar being the right size, you know, the couple that I made leading up to this, it was hard to get that width of the bar. You know, like the couple that they looked like, you know, Craig was like, "Don't make a quarter horse bar shoe." I was like, "Oh shit, all right." So getting the bar width is going to be a big one, and then having it punched good, you know, down the center or just slightly in, you know, to be so the nails will go up there good.
Yeah, you look like looking at this picture on the shoe list here in front of us. Like, it looks like the outside of the of the nail holes on the hoof side are down the middle. You know what I mean? So it's like the nails are just inside center.
Yep. Yep.
All the way around. It's like that's, and if you've anybody that's nailed up draft horses knows, like, you better be just inside center. That sucker is probably not going on, especially in
Yeah.
the quarters. Like,
You're going to be breaking some hoof wall.
yeah. And so, are you too worried? Like, did you keep thickness on the whole entire thing?
Yeah, it's 1/2 inch thick pretty much all the way through. So it's
All
not
right.
like high and low. And I didn't get too
And
crazy sanding on it or anything like that.
but the shoe looks like it obviously has a outside and an inside to it.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's not too exaggerated. You know, it's kind of a unisex, I would say, like,
Yeah, it's
shape.
not too bad.
Yeah.
No, but it definitely looks like one quarter is just a little bit out more than the other and tighter, and the other side's just a little bit more higher in a medial toe. Like, it looks like it's just got a little bit of a foot in it.
Yep.
No, sweet. No, I think the big one on that is going to be just like, man, this class is just the basics of getting something done in life. Of like, you got to make the tool and you got to make the shoe with it. Like, it's one of those classes, like, they won't be judged together, you know, but they rely on each other a lot to be able to get done.
And the little bit of intel that I've gotten from other guys that like have ran the class, like, there is enough time in the class to get it done.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And by the time that your bar shoe is about to be ready to be fullered, is about the time that fuller is being done, being rasped
Yep.
up and handled. So that's pretty good to hear from who I've talked to.
No, I agree. I think, like, it might change some things up for you. If you're a person that normally fullers your bar shoe before you weld it, you might be cutting it tight. Like, that fuller might be, you better get it done real quick. But if you're just okay with go ahead and forging the shoe out for the most part and fullering it after everything's welded in together, I think you're going to be fine. And a little key thing that I've told other people too on this fuller is, don't think you have to turn this thing in used looking. You can take it back off. You can get your shoe forged and fullered and punched. And just like a normal class, there's a time when your fuller's not getting used anymore. Well, maybe take that time to clean the fuller back up and have it looking nice, so when it gets turned in, it looks its best.
Yeah, or even, as you said, like, people can use like a dirtier handle to fuller it and then put a nice handle in it for the table.
Yep. That is the first, and that's just something that, like, man, I wish I would have known that when I did my first one, and it was just a lack of me knowing or asking. Is it like, I got done and I put, my fuller had like hoof packing on it and everything from getting used, like dirty hand marks, just a random crappy handle. Like, the handle was okay, but it wasn't sweet looking. And then the table was a bunch of like polished up, nice stuff. I was like,
yeah,
crap.
and you know, Yeah, like that's not like a major detail, but it draws the
No.
eye, right?
Yeah, and it is just craftsmanship. I mean, I think people get it like, oh yeah, sanding's not everything. Like, well, you know what? Sanding's hard. It's hard to sand really well and really nice and everything to be really square. And so, if a guy turns in a fuller that's straight everywhere else and it's super smooth and nice, like, hard not to like that. That's a lot of craftsmanship to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, you know, eye candy. It's like, that's just nice. Polishing nice on it. Like, everything else is there as well. Don't polish in lieu of something else. Don't hand me a crooked, shitty fuller that's polished up really sweet. That's not going to make, you know, it's just still a turd. But if
Yeah.
it's something real quality that's also polished, well, that just makes it even better, man. Like,
Yeah, both of them together. Like,
yep.
if somebody had like a super crispy, nice, clean handle, but the fuller was kind of shit, the shit fuller is going to still place down low.
Yeah, the handle's not going to win it for you. That's for sure. The fuller is the main thing of the show. That's right. Let's kick over to the individual class.
Sounds good.
So the individual class is kind of we went back and forth a lot of trying to decide on shoes for this. The fuller in the draft shoe is like easy. That one came to us pretty quick after we got asked to do it, and like we were just settled on that class really quick. We went back and forth on these shoes quite a bit. We were making them, and like everybody told me too, they're like, every time that either one of us posted a shoe on our social media, they were afraid that was going to be the shoes on the list.
Yeah.
But it was like, we were just, and they weren't wrong either. It was a lot of just like brainstorming, trying to figure out what we wanted. But we settled on some shoes that it makes it a class. So the individual class, a part of the class is running the fire and being good in the fire. And so one of these shoes is light, the Salmon sideweight is light. It's 9.5 inches of inch by quarter, so pretty light stock. And then the other shoe is 12.5 inches a half by 1. So it's like you got a
Heavier.
chunk of steel there.
Yep.
And so you have to be able to manage your fire and your go of what you're going to do. It's neither one of these shoes are super complicated, but they are like you could burn one up or the other. Like,
well, I don't know
it could
about
go bad
super
just on
complicated.
time management.
That salmon sideweight seems pretty complicated to me.
That's just because you haven't made one. Yeah. It's like if you once you make them, I think it's just something that we like don't our eyes aren't used to them right now or anything. It's like I bet people that have been putting them together now, they're like starting to see the light on them. It's like a French toe or a French hind. You know, at first you're like, where the fuck is the horseshoe in this? Like, or the, you know, like how does the horse's foot go in this? But then after you start making them, you're like, okay, I can see how this goes on a foot. So what? We'll start with your diamond toe. What are some things you're looking at on this diamond toe?
Like a big thing to me is just making sure like the titty right in the center of the toe, I want to see that pronounced enough and be large enough so that would fit the peripheral edge of the hoof wall there. And then thickness in the toe. Like it was just a little bit proud in my 1/2 inch tongue, so it was closer to like 5/8. It might just be a little bit under that.
Yeah, it's like 7/16 or whatever.
Yeah, and then shape is a big one, and then nails, you know, not being punched too fine, too coarse. So, and then size, making sure it's not too big or too small. Just to have it lay right on the specimen. But like if one has a stronger, thicker toe in it, it's going to be more appealing to me versus one that is under 1/2 inch thick or whatever, you know, at the toe and then ran out.
Yeah, because it is a shoe that you get a rasp on, so it's like there may be some like stock hiding or something like that going on in it somewhere. But it is one that like I made one of them, and it's like if you're gonna get enough material in the toe, you don't have a ton of material to fuck around with everywhere else.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna be really thin on the heels or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I was like closer to like 5/16 at my heels. Like it was pretty loose in my 3/8 tongs. So I used 1/2 inch tongs and 3/8 tongs to make the shoe. and yeah, just have it gradual. So like if it sits on the table, both the foot surface and the ground surface is going to be flat on the table, you know, and it's not going to rock back and forth.
Yep. And your nails, they seem like they're almost just in the middle of that toe area, almost like a French hind.
Yeah.
Your
Yep.
toenails.
This episode is brought to you by Yukon Forge. John McNerney over at Yukon Forge is stepping up his game by trying to innovate the farrier business by incorporating new tools that are either for the working man or just a hobbyist or the guy that's going and competing as well. So he's got a whole new lineup of different tools. He's got the new driving hammer, the 14-ounce Scottish-style thistle, which is actually pretty sick, so you can get that on his website now. He's got tongs, hoof knives, any size hammer that you want. 1 3/4, 2 pound, 2.5 pound, 2 1/4 pound, you name it. John McNerney at Yukon Forge has it. Go to his website, check it out, use code BRAINS, and you can get 10% off anything that you order on his website. So we appreciate John for sponsoring the show, and go check him out and get yourself some cool tools.
Toenails would essentially, that's where your toenails would essentially be.
Yep.
And,
yeah, it seems like looking at the backside, like the toenails are just as far away from the leading edge almost as they are from the outside edge.
Yep.
Like they're kind of squared off that way. It's like a French hind.
I guess when I was making it, I tried to like intersect it where I set up my T-square, and then I was trying to like intersect between those outer shoulders and then have the fullering come in like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Yeah, because it's like I just asked that. It's like sometimes on shoes you feel like you're in the, you're just freaking in the area out in the field trying to find somewhere. It's like, man, there's too much room, nothing to reference on out here. So it's like nice to kind of know where your head was and where you were putting those at,
And then some like pictures of some shoes I've seen some guys make, like either the toe is really wide at the shoulders there, or it's narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I have noticed that same thing. It kind of seems like most of them are tighter. It seems like a lot of tight toes.
Yeah. Yeah, they get...
I wonder where that kind of comes from.
From the tighter, I would think, I don't know. I could see it where they come out wider, where they just got into it too much when they were setting it up.
Setting it up or like cleaning up later. Like just
Yeah.
And like don't realize they're creeping up the horn a whole bunch.
Yep.
Whereas the tighter is like, man, you got to work pretty hard to make it tighter. So it's like just don't do that. Just don't work that hard at making it wrong. So yeah, I'd probably measure the specimen on the day and try to make sure you know what that is from point to point on on that toe. You know what it is on the square across there, and that'll get you pretty freaking close. To then put your heels underneath that, and you're going to be in the ballpark. And really, that shoe, like, did you put 2 bumps into it?
Yeah, so I did a YouTube video on it, and something that I did not include in the video was right before I turned my toe, I isolated just the titty right there, and I bumped that up, and it pooched it out even more and gave it. So 2 bumps in the toe, set it up, and then I did 1 quick bump of just the titty right before turning the toe.
So you did the titty and then took another heat into the toe bend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That just gave it a little bit more.
Yeah, and that was doing it at home. I think like while you're in the go, you're probably going to get it down to 2 bumps and get it all out there.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was 2 solid bumps of like I did 1 big one and then 1 tight one, and I got about 2 1/4 in it or something, 2 3/8, and that seemed like it was plenty.
That's pretty close to what I had bumped up into it. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was at least 2 inches.
And so I think something just to don't get in your head, like this is like a lot of times too, like no offense, we're talking to lower category guys that are still trying to figure out all of this. The higher category guys already have their plan, what they're going to do and everything. But it's like, but this is still something even like, don't over flatten shit. Don't like, and it's easy to do on this diamond toe. It's easy to do on the salmon sideway, where you just like, you want to plate it up, so you just go to freaking running the crap out of it. Well, you can't get that back unless you make the shoe big again.
Yeah.
So it's like, be very caught, and like, I'm not trying to pick on Troy because like I can't. Troy's a way better horseshoer than me, but it's like, if there's one thing I tell Troy every once in a while, I was like, man, I can tell you flatten the crap out of that. It's like, because Troy can hit very, very hard, and he very flat, so he flattens things out very quickly, and it's like, you just can't get it back, man. It's like one of those things where it's like, so especially if I was a Cat 1, I'd be having my striker really careful on these. I wouldn't just be like, get tired and be like, yeah, man, freaking iron them out for me. I'd be careful. Don't over flatten things too much, or you're not going to have the thickness in the toe, or you're going to have to do a bunch of work and get the toe really wide and the shoe really big to try to gain it back.
That was kind of one thing I always was curious, since I made it by myself. I was always kind of wondering like how much different it would turn out if you had like your striker just hit your cross peen there to set up the diamond in the straight, how that would turn out versus like put it in by yourself, and you can kind of peel with that cross peen to pull material to the tit or not.
It would get bigger under a striker just because it's going to be more efficient, and the blows are going to go more to the center of the metal compared to when you're doing it by hand. You're not getting to the center of the metal as much, and you're using just like your hammer to peel, like you said, so it's mushrooming more, and so you're growing that leading edge better by hand than you are with a striker. That's just physics of how it works. Like if I go up if I'm going to upset a piece of steel, say I have just like a piece of 1 inch round, 4 inches long, and I'm gonna upset it. If I do that with a hand hammer, I'm gonna have to continually control the mushrooming, like the whole entire time. I'm gonna mushroom the end over and over again. If I do that with a power hammer, boom, like the middle blows out. There's zero mushrooming because it's like there's enough power to get all the way to the middle of the project. So that will happen with a striker. A striker will give your hammer enough power to get all the way to the middle of the project, and the middle will blow out of the shoe, and you'll have to try to drag that material to the leading edge. So if you are going to use a striker for that, or for the salmon sideweight dip, because both these shoes have the divots in them in the straight, I would do a majority, like especially with the diamond toe, I would do the majority of it with my hand, and then I would have a striker just clean it up at the end with me at a cold heat when it's not going to matter as much. It's just going to take your hammer marks out of the dang thing.
Yeah.
Because it will make it grow different. But if you've practiced the whole thing with a striker, do not listen to me. Do it how you're doing.
Don't change up your system now. I mean, it's pretty close, but we're just trying to add some little details in, that you may not be able to see just from a piece of paper, from the program.
Don't get drunk on the accessories. Still make it a horseshoe.
Yeah.
Like, know that a guy that doesn't have as sweet and crispy of a diamond toe, but he has a good shape and size and nail holes, he's probably, the guy that just kind of treated it as a 3/4 fuller with a little bump in the toe, he'll probably do pretty good. Like, it's hard to argue it. It's hard to argue with that shoe. Like,
it's got to get nailed on.
Yeah, but a guy that has a super sweet titty on the, a diamond toe, and has really coarse medial nails,
it's not
good. Not
no
good.
Bueno.
Yeah. All right, so while you're in the time that you're making this diamond toe, you got to also be making this salmon sideweight. And this is a shoe that's like, don't get too drunk in the accessories of the shoe. It's still a pretty basic horseshoe when it comes down to it. It doesn't have a crazy shape to it, really. It's very it has a shape of a standard bredder, so like a gated type horse, that they don't have a lot of quarters or anything. They kind of have a bold toe and just fall through the quarters. They aren't too prominent or strong, and so that's in this shoe. But so people have asked me, like, what are you looking for in this thing? It's like, hey, I'm looking for a decent horseshoe shape. And so I'm looking for that lateral quarter to be just a touch hair above the medial quarter. It's just a real horseshoe shape, a real flowy toe. I'm not looking for really late quarters that are really hooked in or anything, or roadster prominent quarters, with a tight toe. So, but you can't have a nice shape in this shoe unless you put these accessories in the right spot. So if your bumps, and these bumps are called dollies, and it's like, I always feel like a little sexist even saying it, because it's like, this shoe came from Jay Sharp. Jay's the one that made it popular and came up with it. So that's why he's from Salmon, Idaho. That's where the salmon side weight comes from. And he called these bumps dollies for Dolly Parton. So like Dolly Parton's tits, that's where these dollies come from. And so these dollies on here, if they're too far down the branch, which is easy to do, have happen when you're making it, then your quarter's too far, because your quarter is going to end up in the middle of the dollies, because that's the weak spot of the shoe, right? And so this shoe is also fittable. So if you look at where it's thin at, it's thin in the spots you need to bend a shoe to get it on a horse. So it's thin in the toe, so you can tighten or loosen the toe. It's thin in the quarter, so you can open or close the quarter. It's thin in the lateral heel, so you can bring that heel in or straighten it back out if you need to. So it's a shoe that could be made and then applied to horses that are in that general shape, right? And the whole medial side, so it can have done whatever it needs to have done to it. I wanted this shoe to be a hammer finish shoe, because then you couldn't go ahead and just make the medial whatever you want to cut it off, or just rasp the medial shape and lateral shape back into the inside. I wanted it to be something that you had to forge and put it in the right place to be able to use later. If you have your dollies really far down and your quarter's in the wrong place, well, that affects everything, because if I can't move that quarter up because the dollies are in the wrong place. If the dollies are really high up and it makes the quarter really high up, well, that ruins the shape and the fitability of the shoe because it's too far down. And another thing that happens really easy on the shoe is the trailer gets huge. Like, you see some trailers, and I've seen it on some of the guys are posting, it's like, man, they're monsters. They're just these huge fins of trailers out there that wouldn't look normal on a horse at all. And
it's a
so
weapon.
There's like there's a few spots on this shoe that are pretty normal, I think, that are like the width of the stock right at the lateral heel. It's like just showing Gavine this too. It's like right here. Mm-hmm. That width right there is about the same width in between the dollies.
Okay.
So like how wide it is there is all, like, if you cut the dollies out, you would still kind of have a section.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if I just went ahead and cut those dollies out, it would just be an even weighted shoe with a trailer.
Yeah, probably close to 3/4 then, huh?
Yep, it's really not far off. And so that's kind of like, once you start looking at the shoe with that way of like, all right, I just need these dollies to the right spot so I can get a quarter bend in the right spot. And like, you can even notice that's where my third nail ends, right above the valley of the dolly. So right in front of the widest part, just like you'd put on a normal horseshoe. So it's like, all right, I just need my dollies in the right spot so that I can put my quarter bend in the right spot. And I need a okay trailer. Like, I don't want an AFA big old trailer on there. I just want a little appropriate trailer on there, and then stock, keep my stock width throughout on the rest of the lateral branch. So it's not, I don't want it super skinny in between the two dollies, and a lot of them I see are super fat right at the lateral toenail area.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
You see a lot of them that are really fat there, and it also, like, that's the spot that just wants to keep buckling on you when you're making the shoe. Your medial toe wants to go away, and that spot wants to just keep getting prouder and prouder. And it's like, you gotta straighten it out and get it sweet before, and like get it straight. Like, it's a hard spot to shape up that lateral branch and not have it just be round.
And what nail did you punch that for again?
since day one, we've had the great sponsor of Farrier Box. And something that's really cool is, I don't know if they like read our minds or not, but this last month's box was pretty dang cool. Came with a brand new Salcedo hoof knife, some tool ruse, some buffing compound, and a cotton wheel, and basically sets you up just to go straight to trimming feet and knifing them out. So amongst some other things, and then if you guys want to get on the program, go to farrierbox.com, use code brains, and get 25% off your first month's box. Like, you won't be disappointed with all these tools that you get. So sign up, do something cool.
A race 4.5.
Race 4.5.
Which I don't know, maybe some people might think that's not a big enough nail or something. I've nailed on a good amount of like a very small 1/4 inch thick straight bars that I've made that are like almost race plate straight bars on small horses, and I've nailed those all on with 4.5 races, and they stay on great.
Yeah.
And it does, like, once you put a 4.5 race in that shoe, it looks pretty appropriate.
I think so. And, it's only 1/4 inch thick too, right? So
yeah. So that's really what it comes down to, is how thick of a head can you get in 1/4 inch thick stock. And that shoe especially is like, that's one, it's like, man, don't over flatten it or you're going to end up really wide looking. And you're going to lose that. You're going to lose that fine old school look that it kind of has.
I just learned something new. I'd always wondered where the Salmon came from in side weight. I had no idea that was because he was from Salmon, Idaho.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I think me and Gavin try to do with this list is like bring a little bit of old stuff back, of like the old school Scottish straight bladed foaler, is bring that back and have people making it again, and bring back. It doesn't get much more American than side weights and trotter shoes.
Yeah,
we make a lot of freaking English shoes in our competition world, and we don't make a lot of toe weights and side weights and stuff like that. And I think it's just kind of cool to bring back a little bit of the old school American shoemaking.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, and then now there'll be some lucky few, 40 of you guys approximately, that'll get into the live shoeing if your other classes go good. For the live shoeing, I think the specimen shoe is cool. I think it's one of those, like, it has a story to it. So where does this specimen come from, Gavin?
That's the old Tony the Pony French hind. So when we're up at Spruce Meadows, Calgary this last year, I drew Tony the Pony, tiny ass little horse, and 3/8 by 1 would have been like, I would have had to probably cut like 6 inches of 3/8 by 1 to make a shoe out of it. And Troy talked me into doing 3/8 3/4, and I was like, all right, try it. And then, just bumped it up and made it a big, like, into a section to then be a French hind, and kind of the question that I guess I've gotten asked the most about that shoe is, how much did I bump in the toe? And it was about 2 inches or so that I bumped up into that toe to get that width and for the clips. So I think before I turned it, it was like 8 1/4-ish right in there.
Yeah, it was. It was, that was the first day I was at Spruce Meadows. So, like, I just kind of showed up late, just like kind of walk around. And, like, you were in one of the first classes. I think you were in the second class.
No, the first one.
Were you the first? So it was like, I was kind of like walking
one.
around. And I was like, and obviously I'm going to go see what Gavin and Troy are doing. I'm like, oh, what are you going to cut, man? You're like 10.5 inches. I'm like, no fucking way. No, you're not. I was like, I have never seen a French hind made out of 3/8 3/4, especially not 10.5 inches.
Yeah.
Like, it looked, when I was looking at it, I was like, dude, that's enough steel to just put on him.
Yeah.
Like, if you just bent it and we're going to plane stamp it, that's barely enough steel to put on him. And so it's like, it was really cool to see you made a whole section out of the stuff. Like, it was completely made out. Yeah, it was a cool test. And so that's why I thought, when we were trying to come up with the shoeing specimen, I was like, dude, you should remake Tony the Pony's shoe. I was like, that was such a cool class and such, like, something that isn't done very common. If we have a French hind's on a shoe list, it's always out of 10 inches of 3/8 by 1, 11 inches of 3/8 by, like, 13, or it's like in that realm, but it's out of 3/8 by 1 usually.
Yep.
or 1.25. It's out of something really freaking wide. And so it's cool, I think, to kind of throw everybody out of the norm. But like, this is real this is real shoeing when you have to put the same style of shoe on something as a different section.
Yep.
And so it's really not that big of a ball buster because it is such a small section and small stuff. But it's one you got to pay attention to.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I think it's a cool shoe, and it's got the clips. The clips are drawn on it.
Yep.
And so, what are some things that you're gonna like be looking at right away on this shoe?
So obviously the nailing's got to be appropriate, right? It's got to be able to be nailed on, and then making sure like the clips aren't drawn too far down the branch, or they're not too close up to the toe. So they're just off the toe, just ever so slightly. And then, basically making sure like they're not drugged back down the branch too far. And then, the mistake I made on the day shoeing that horse or shoeing Tony the pony was I didn't really have like a clean section there where my clips were drawn. Like I kind of had tear down on my section, and it didn't really look very good on the foot. So the nice thing was being able to go home and practice and make a couple more of these and actually get the section to look nice so there wasn't the tear down. So make it appear as if like the clips aren't there and it's just a square toe is a big thing.
Yeah,
and
you did a sweet job of that on this one.
And having the shape there, have it, make the specimen essentially, make it lay on there. It's not the exact same shape as like what Tony the pony was, but it's fairly close. And yeah, have a nail fit be pretty good. Like I punched it for Liberty Race 5, so it's not a big gaping nail in there. So just have a nail fit be really good. Yeah. And then appropriate heels.
Yeah. And I would say also like your nails, keep in mind that the whole shoe is moving back under the horse. Like the whole front of the shoe is moving under the horse a little, but that doesn't mean the nails are.
Right.
So like if you look at the back side of the shoe, it looks like the nails are far forward, but they aren't. They aren't. The front of the shoe is back. So try to keep that in mind. Like don't punch that sucker way far back. Like if you put the toenails across the inside of the branch, like you're fucked. You're not gonna get that thing off. It's like, so keep that in mind of like the front of the shoe is underneath the foot a little bit. That doesn't mean the nails are. They're still where they are. And I had multiple people ask me when you said the Liberty Race 5, ask me about the nails in the Salmon sideweight. They're like, oh, which brand of 4.5 did you put in? Well, I just have a bunch of Mustad 4.5s here. It's like you buy one box of race nails; they're gonna last you almost the rest of your life. At least in my world. But there's gonna be a lot of Liberty nails there. So like if your shoe fits a Liberty 5 race, like I'll just have multiple nails on the table. You know what I mean? Like if it fits a nail good, it fits a nail good. It's like. The test isn't for my shoe to have a nail fit nice into it. The test is to have your shoe fit a nail nice in it.
Yeah. So you don't want them to go up to like a Combo 5 Slim though, right?
No, it still needs to be a race nail. Yeah, I'm not saying just like willy-nilly. I'm just saying like I wouldn't worry about fitting. You know what I mean? Like even when I asked Craig that same thing, he's like, the test is for theirs to fit nice, not yours. Like mine fits a Mustad 4.5 nice. But if yours also fits a Liberty, I don't think they're that far off. But maybe I'm just not as detailed of a person. I don't know. Or maybe I haven't looked at them good enough. But back to the shoe-ins class, yeah, I would say on Gavine's, keep that nailing in mind. The width of the toe, where the clips are placed, and quarter placement, And then in that same class, you guys got to make some concave from a piece of flat stock and get it on the horse. These are going to be like ranch type horses and everything like that. So I don't think we want to see any crazy fitting. Like I don't want to see like California baggy on the thing. I want to see pretty working horse fitting, right? What do you think, Gav?
Yeah, perimeter fit. Essentially, we're not shoeing them like California style shoeing. you know, and don't come underneath the toe, right? They're toe clipped, so can't cheat the toe any. And
Yep.
then you had kind of mentioned the nice thing about making, like, so if somebody were to use like a block, you know, you can still make like an appealing section out of three, whatever you choose to use, if you know, cut it out or put it in with your hammer versus just running it through a block like a tool and fuller type shoe.
Yep. Yeah, that's the big thing, is making a nice section, and it's like also to keep in mind, we didn't ask for a tool and fuller shoe.
Yeah.
If we wanted tool and fuller on the horse, we would have said tool and fuller on the horse. So I don't want to see something like tool and fuller tends to be weak in the toe, kinda. It's like I definitely don't want to see that. These are going to be working horses that need some toe wear on them, you know. And it's like, and it's a part of the test. Is like I want to see concave made from flat stock, and I made a specimen shoe or just like an example of what we kind of wanted to see, and you can tell in mine like it has a little bit more width in the toe than it does in the rest of the stuff. You know, like those lines are just a touch fatter up there in the toe than they are on the rest of the shoe. So if you just run a piece of 5/8 through the block and make me a piece of tool and fuller, like first test is fit the foot. Whoever fits the feet are going to do great.
Yep.
Like that's just always how it is. If you trim flat and nice and you fit the foot, I don't care if you put a banana on there almost. You know what it's like? You're gonna probably do pretty well if it's fit nice and the foot's trimmed flat. But if it's a section that's really tall with thin lines at the top, that's a piece of tool and fuller. Like that's not what we were after.
And then kind of another thing is like, so the section through the heels where you've seen like heels get put on and it ramps out, you know, keep that going all the way through, like as if it was concave going on the foot.
Yep. Yeah, it's don't ramp it out, cut it all the way through. Like Logan posted one the other day where he like kind of left a check on the inside, like just like a bump there. And it's like, if it looks nice, I don't really care. But safe, good horseshoeing. So it's like, if you can slope that all the way around, have it look really sweet, blending those transitions into each other, I think that just kind of adds to it. Obviously have checks that match your frog's check on the thing. But I don't think we're looking for anything too crazy. And it's like, just don't overthink it too much of what we're asking for. We're asking for a fully fullered shoe with the inside cut out.
Yep. Yeah.
Try to have consistent lines, you know, like where you fuller through the toe. I don't want to see it, the fullering being towards the leading edge or the inside edge, you know. Have that fullering be down the middle so it has even lines front and back.
And it doesn't have to be a flat bottom fuller. You can fuller it with your regular fuller. Yeah.
No, yeah, just fuller with normal fuller. I mean, same fuller you're probably going to cut out the inside rim with, but so it just makes it easy.
And then you'll also be tested with how good you can run a rasp on the sense of dressing feet, because there's no sanding.
Yeah, we're going to do no sanding on the feet. So good clean horseshoe and not a bunch of rasp marks, especially not all the way up the foot all crazy like that. We like to see just straight walls. So that's, you know, that's something I was guilty of for a long time. I'd only rasp to my nails. So that'd kind of leave a little bit of a bump into the foot. It's like, I know Gavine and stuff likes just a smooth, flat surface, and that makes it easy for judging too. So just give us a smooth, flat surface. Not a bunch of rasp marks.
I like strong clinches. That's something
I say, and straight, strong and straight. Don't want to see those things all crooked or freaking catching our hands, you know.
Yep.
And like, don't file them off because you think you had a bumpy, rough clinch. It's like, because then that's not a strong clinch either. Have nice, strong, square clinches.
Yep.
I think it's going to be the same thing as like I liked how Mick and them judged Spruce Meadow. I think they judged the shoeing part of that pretty dang well, of how it was just basic horseshoeing. So it's like on these horses here, I hope we can just keep that going. Of like, we just want to see good basic horseshoeing.
Same. Well, should we talk about the match play real quick? And I'm here at my barn, so.
Yeah, we'll get it done. Then we can both get to work. actual work. Match play is going to be individual, obviously, except for I think the Cat 1 guys still get a striker in match play, and we're going to do a omnidirectional shoe on the foot or on the to, like what you got to fit appropriate stock, appropriate nail. So it'll change for everybody whatever they're doing, and they're going to give the guys 10 minutes to start it. And I think me and Gavin both have the same idea on this. An omnidirectional shoe is going to have the bevel going pretty far into the branch, like into the web. We want to see like if you were going to like break it down in the toe section of like 2/3 of it's going to be beveled.
Yeah, it's not a rolled toe where it's just from toenail to toenail. Like the beveling, the omni needs to basically stop at the widest part of the foot. And then
it needs to go at least widest to widest, I would say.
Yep.
Like the omni needs to go widest to widest, and it needs to come into the branch.
Yep.
Past at least to the inside of the toenails,
Yeah, so like that picture that Craig posted on the flyer,
where
the nails are in the beveling.
Yep, perfect. That's it. I agree. I don't care if the beveling cuts out a little bit on the heel nails or something like that, on the exit. But it's like the first 2 nails need to be in the beveling, I would say, and then the nails need to be in the white line. That's obviously something about the match play right away. Is like even before you get judged on the template, is it needs to be a good nailable horseshoe. So,
and then fit.
Yeah, the fit. After that, it's just gonna be fit. Same thing. Perimeter fit, just a little bit of a boxing around the end. I don't want to see a whole bunch sagging either way, But I think that's pretty straightforward. 10 minutes. It's not a crazy shoe or anything like that. Just got to make sure it's actually an omni.
I agree. It'll be pretty fun, man. I'm looking forward to it, and hard to believe it's already here next week.
Yeah, me too. We'll get this episode out as quick as we can to you guys. Hopefully it kind of settles some things out. Or if you guys have any more questions, just reach out. And if not, we'll see you guys in Fort Worth.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.